All right, so let's take an example that basically implements conditionals and loops at the same time, right? And the example of the program we want to create is simply a program that goes through a list of grades, sum up the grades that are above or equal to 50, which is basically the passing grade, and then calculate the average for these grades. Okay, so let's start with defining the variables that we are going to need. Uh, First one will be the total, and we will set it initially to the value of 0. Okay, and we want another variable to count the number of grades. So we will name it, for example, num of grades. Any name variable you want. Be initially equal to 0, right? And then we'll create a variable called the average and set it initially to 0 as well, right? Now, let's create a list of some grades. Any grades. Grades is equal to, we open up square brackets because it's a list, right? And then we add some values like 20, 78, 45, 55, 62, and maybe 97. Okay, now uh, we want to loop through each element, and during each iteration we will add each element to the total, just like we did in the previous part. So we start with the for keyword, for, and see how the color of the for keyword has been uh, the color is basically purple, and it's been assigned automatically by Python to indicate that this is a Python keyword, right? For now, the iterator can be named anything. It's basically just a normal variable, right? So let's name it ball, right? Just to emphasize the idea that we can name this variable anything we want. Next, we use the n keyword. Again, it's in purple, right? Now, what is the list we want to loop through? It's named grades. So we write grades. Next, we place a colon to indicate that we want to start writing down the body of this for loop, or the statements that we want to be executed many times. All right. Now Python automatically creates some white space for us, right? This indentation is very, very important. Again, to indicate the body of the for loop. All right. Now, at each iteration, what do we want to do? We simply want to add the value of ball, which is the current grade in the list, to the total. So we would say total is equal to total, the old value of total, plus what? Value of ball, right? At the same time, we want to increase the number of grades by 1. Num of grades equals to num of grades by 1. Now remember, we only wanted to calculate the grades that are above or equal to 50, right? So we add a condition here before these two statements saying if ball was greater than or equal to 50, right? And then we add these two statements indented after the if statement to indicate that these two statements, sorry, belong to the if statement. Okay, and we are done with the for part. Now we go ahead and we calculate the average by saying average is equal to the total divided by the num of grades. Right, now we print out the uh, average that we calculated to see it on the screen. So let's execute our program and see what we get. As you can see here, the output is 73. So it's as simple as that. We just created a bunch of variables that we need in our program. We created a simple list of grades. We created a for loop, right? Which consists of the for keyword, the in keyword, the iterator, which is a variable that we can name anything, and the list we want to iterate it through, right? Next, we created a simple condition that checks if the current value of the grade is greater than or equal to 50. If so, then we want to add it to the total. And then increase the number of grades by 1. Remember, if this was evaluated to false, then these two statements will not be executed, and therefore the current grade will not be added to the total. All right. Right after the for loop finishes execution, we went ahead and calculated the average by saying total divided by the number of grades. After that, we printed out the average to see the value on our screen. All right. I encourage you to go ahead and create your own examples, create a bunch of conditionals and loops to really understand the structure of these statements and how do they logically work. All right. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.